about being a commissioner, it's really a full-time commitment. Not a day goes by that you're not working on commissioner issues. One of the things that's important is being out in the public, making sure that you are accessible. If it's from a light being out to a sinkhole, which just came up in one of our communities, to a road needing to be repaved, residents will contact you. But I'm fortunate because of my other job. My employer recognized the importance of being a public servant. So with an agreement, I can do both jobs, and I enjoy both jobs.
Okay, sounds interesting. So this is not your first term. You started back in 2014, is my understanding.
This is my first term. I'm running for my second term. Terms are 4 years.
4 years?
4
okay.
years.
And tell me, what makes your decision to go ahead and rerun again? Because sometimes people get into a position, they be like, you know what, this thing, they could kick rocks with this. I don't want to do this again. But what made you decide to go ahead and run for re-election?
A lot of praying and a lot of talking. But at the end of the day, I look at the projects that I've been able to be a part of to accomplish, and I have a list of projects that I want to see through. And so my job is not done. And so with that, you have to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to run for re-election again. I'm going to run for re-election. It's being a commissioner, being an elected official, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. You're really giving a lot of yourself. Your family has to make a commitment. Your family is giving a lot of themselves. And so with that, I decided to run for re-election because there's things that still needs to be done.
Okay, now I want to remind our viewers that we want to encourage you to share and invite this. Also, if you'd like to call in and ask any questions about current commissioner for District 3 in Charles County, the phone number is back here, 301-429-9247. Just call in and you can ask her any kind of questions that you would like to ask her too. So that is interesting. When it came to your prior term, what were you saying was on your platform? What did you want to accomplish on your platform then, and what have you accomplished from that?
Right. And so with deciding to run for office the first time, it was the entire focus of my campaign was improving the quality of life of all residents in Charles County. And then you looked at what areas did I focus on. Number one priority as a mom, schools. I firmly believe then and still believe now that no matter where you live in Charles County, no matter your zip code, it should not determine the quality of education you receive. The second thing that was very important to me was transportation, making sure that we were making improvements on our roads within our county. Over 60% of our residents leave the county every day to go to work. And so we need to have local officials that understand that we need to improve our roads. That's working with the state. And the other thing that was really big for me, especially just being I've lived in Charles County for like 30 years, and I have a child. And something else that's really important is those community amenities. Those things that just make you want to be in Charles County. Those things that just make your life comfortable. From opening a new rec center to increasing our tourism or paying attention to those activities people can do on the weekend. And so that was the main areas that I focused on when I was running in 2014. And they just make sense. So to be honest, it's still my platform. Didn't change my platform because it's what makes sense. When you talk to people, that's what they're concerned about. They're concerned about schools, roads, and what can I do on the weekends or in the evening here at home.
So you being a teacher, tell me how you grade yourself on accomplishing and what you've done with that platform, keeping your promise that you gave to the voters who gave you their vote back then.
Well, starting with schools, I proudly have been endorsed by the teachers in Charles County, the EACC, Education Association of Charles County. I've been endorsed by them again. And it's because I have kept my commitment. There's many projects I can mention, but I'll mention a few that I'm most proud of. Number one, when I came into office, there was a list that the school system had hired an outside firm to evaluate every school, from the best to the worst, meaning the infrastructure. And the number one school that needed to be fixed was Mudd Elementary School. And that was my first major project.
Where is that?
Right in Waldorf, right in the older part of St. Charles. It was in dire need for renovation. And so I made that one of my big projects. We took that school down to the studs. It's amazing. If you go back on to my Facebook page, I will have a video up by this evening or tomorrow, and you'll be able to see the school is in full renovation.
Wow.
Comptroller Francho came down and said, you know what, Commissioner Stewart, you're getting it right. Local officials need to understand that new money for new construction is not in the budget like back in the 1980s. We have to renovate our schools. So I'm so excited about that. Something else with the schools, and it's just the overall improvement of the county, we gave raises to the teachers.
Okay, that's a good thing.
And here is something. Now I don't teach.
How much of a raise? I'm a union girl. How much you give them?
They've been getting their steps, but this is something really important. This is really important. Now I don't teach in Charles County, so I teach in another county. So I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues, and I let them know. I said, with the budget we passed on May 15th, we're raising the entry level salary for first year teachers. And they looked at me and they said, well, what's the new salary? And I said, incoming into Charles County, the first year teacher right out of school will make $48,000.
Okay.
Now compare that amount to local other counties, will be higher than any of the local counties.
Okay, including the one you work in, huh?
We're finalizing the budget where I work, so I need to look at the final numbers for next school year. But I think if we don't beat it, we're going to be real close to it. So I'm excited about that. Okay. And we were able to provide the county, Charles County Public School System, with support in a major area. And let's be real. We look at the news. We hear what's going on across the nation. We had an incident right in a neighboring county, St. Mary's County. They had a shooting. And one of the things that we partnered with the school system is we're doing over $6 million in school security upgrades or enhancements. So taking that responsibility from the school system allowed them to use that money on their teacher salaries.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing. So the whole thing dealing with the guns and stuff, that's part of safety. I had a person that emailed me a question to give to you, kind of dealing with also safety of the students in the school. Particularly, they want to talk about with the Education Association talking about children, that you should care about them more. That with the situation with Carlos Bell, who was a Charles County, is he the teacher that was targeting boys and he's a previous coach that was targeting boys and producing pornography. And then most recently you had a Marvin Van Dyke Jr. who has been charged with sexual abuse of a minor and also sexual offense in the 4th degree. So they wanted to know what was your opinion about that, and what is it that you will do to prevent these type of crimes that are just as significant as guns. I mean, that's a scar that's never going to heal.
Right.
Okay, so what is your opinion on these things happening in Charles County schools?
You know, it's very upsetting if it happens anywhere. But when it happens in your home, your hometown, it hits you hard. Like I said, I have a child that attends Charles County Public School System. And as a commissioner, it just rings home the importance of working with the school system and working with the sheriff's office to make sure they have the tools necessary to have in place if something like this happens, that swiftly, we can handle the situation. As a teacher, I just can't even fathom that someone in our schoolhouse would do harm to our children. But obviously, we're watching the news and looking at the indictments, it is happening. One of the issues that we needed in Charles County that we put in our budget this year is a forensic lab for the county.
Okay.
One of the issues that I heard from people, concerns with one of those cases that you mentioned, was that, and I'm not faulting the Maryland State Police Department I know that there's experts in other areas that are more in tune about the process and how long it takes. But one of the concerns that I heard was it took too long for the evidence to be processed. And so as your commissioner, we looked at how can we support our sheriff's office to make sure that if something like this does happen again, we're not relying on outside source to process evidence. And so with this budget, we're doing a forensics lab.
Okay.
So that's just one way. We are in contact with the school system, and anytime something like this happens, they inform us. But our hands are tied with policy or personnel changes. That's clearly the school system responsibility and the Board of Education.
Okay. So you have a lot of questions that are popping up in here, and I may have missed some. And I encourage people that if I miss your question, you can call in 301-429-9247 and ask your questions directly. So can you speak to, we have a Brian Simnick who stated that you gave raises to the teachers because you had to by law. You gave them their required steps. You're not raising the salary for everyone else. So let's not take credit for what you are required to do by law. Can you speak to, is that a requirement by law, or how does that work, so we can educate the voters? Because you have voters who are on here reading these comments too.
Right. So it's not, there's a law that talks about maintenance of effort. And so the maintenance of effort, the law in the state of Maryland states that when you provide the school system X number of dollars, the following school year, the following budget, you have to provide them the same amount of money. There is no law that we had to give them steps. Actually, it's the EACC with the school system, the superintendent, that negotiates with the union if they're going to receive steps. The commissioners, our job is to make sure that the money is in place in the budget and working with the school system that will allow them to give steps or raises to their teachers.
So what you're saying is, if regardless if the law says that if the money isn't there, you can't get the raise. Is that essentially?
It's two different things, right? So we have to give the school system a pot of money, and how the school system determines how they're going to use that money is up to them. But what I've learned as commissioner is, before going through the budget cycle, you have conversations with the EACC, the union, and the superintendent, and we look at our goals. So the goal is always to give raises, right? To give steps, and then we make sure there's enough money there so the school system can accomplish that.
Okay, so the 48,000 starting rate is not something, as you stated, that particularly the commissioners granted, because you don't have any authority of determining what the actual salary is.
That is true, but with that being said, working during the budget cycle, they knew that was one of our goals, that we wanted to raise the salary band.
Okay.
So that
we have a call coming in. It's Hanging with Your Girl Tasha. Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
Oh, how you doing? This is Derek Terry, call from Waldorf, Mass.
Hello, Derek. You have a question for Miss Amanda?
Yes, I do, because I don't get an opportunity to get a response, so maybe I get one now. I've been teaching for 18 years, and also the union rep. So what I'm curious to find out is how a teacher in Prince George's County can work during contract hours. And I don't know of any other teacher that can do that in Prince George's County. And I know for a fact in Virginia I can't do it. So I'm guessing that Maryland has some new laws, new provisions that allow for this. And if they do, can you at least point me to the source or where it's stated in your teacher's contract where you're able to do this, whether sick leave, personal leave, or leave without pay, to basically what we call in the military double dipping. Because we can do that in the military. We have an exemption to do that. I'm just curious of how it's done.
Well, thank you for the question. I am very blessed to have an employer that values my service. I do remember one time someone said to me that we would prefer to have you 80% of the time than no percent of the time, and they really believe in public service. One of the things, Tasha, that I found very interesting, and I loved getting to know some of the elected officials in Prince George's County. Several of the elected officials in Prince George's County, some now and even retired, they were teachers. And so they were even allowed to give back and still work for a time. It's just a great agreement that I have with my employer, which I'm very fortunate.
Okay, and thank you for your call, Derek. Someone else had a question, I guess, because you just touched base on that. Will this be something that will continue on into your next term if you're reelected too? Because they want to know, are you going to continue to do this, or will you be giving up? Will you quit your teacher gig so that you can show up to all the meetings and not have a special schedule for meetings that no other commissioner gets?
I don't quite understand the question about, or the comment about what no other commissioner gets. One of the great things about this administration and how the commissioners roll. One of the things that we did when we came into this administration, the first thing we understood and when meeting with staff is that they were very displeased with having 5 bosses. Meaning previous administrations, sometimes staff didn't know who to answer to because you had 5 bosses. Okay. And so one of the things we wanted to do was clean up government to make sure that it was ran professionally and organized. And so we have a county administrator. And please, folks can go to the Charles County MD.gov website to just look at our structure of how we run government. And so staff now, the feedback that we're receiving from our staff surveys with how they enjoy their job or the workplace surveys, they're finding that the way that we're running our job now is more efficient and it's just better for morale. One of the things I believe, Tasha, is people misunderstand. I don't know, maybe this is something we haven't done a good job of sharing with the community, but the one of the things is that when you see on Tuesdays when we're in session sitting in front of the camera, that's just a small portion of our job. That is a small portion. If anyone thinks that that's the job, they're misinformed.
Sound like a union VP. Because I do a whole lot of work off the clock.
Exactly. Sometimes, I think last Friday, my first meeting before going to school in La Plata was at 8 a.m. So I was in La Plata at 8 a.m., had a meeting for 30 minutes, and then booked it to my job. And so it's not about not being available. I'm always available to residents and especially staff or even directors or even departments that work with the county, such as Department of Social Services. I'm on their board, the library board for the Charles County. I'm on their board of trustees. So it really doesn't matter which group, what business, what department. You just make yourself available. If it's in person at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., if it's a conference call during lunchtime, you just make yourself available.
So it's not a special schedule.
It's not. It's not. And it goes back to
I have a transportation question, but we got another phone call, and the phone calls take priority around here. So
sounds good.
Hanging with your girl Tasha. Who do we have calling in, and where are you calling from?
Hey Tasha, this is Cedric. I'm calling from Waldorf, and I appreciate you guys and this.
Hi Cedric.
Hey, good. I just have a comment and a question for Commissioner Stewart. I just want to say thank you, Commissioner Stewart. I appreciate your approach to the more complex issues. I heard James Baldwin once say that being simple-minded is an American virtue, and most of the time people don't even have to know what they're talking about. They get a pass. And you haven't done that. You haven't been simple-minded. You've taken an approach that most people kind of shy away from because it takes effort. So I just want to commend you on that. And also I want to ask, in regards to the Fraternal Order of Police, the 24th Lodge here in Charles County, they put out a statement maybe a year and a half back in regards to the national crisis that was going on in the country in regards to law enforcement. What is your position, I guess, still with them? Because I've seen you support a lot of the police and the programs and different things, and champion a lot of causes. What is your I guess stance on the letter that they put out and the recent sponsor of the candidate, the incumbent Derek Terry? What is your comment and view on that?
So I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. Thank you for calling in. Are you referring to the letter that they wrote about a year or so ago against a statement I posted on Facebook?
Correct. As a concerned parent, the statement that you put as a concerned parent for your kids.
Right. Thank you for the question. Time flies. Was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, during our crisis. And one of the tough things about being a commissioner, as you can imagine, is that fine line. Okay, so we have social media. We use social media to get our thoughts and just share with people. And for our viewers that are unfamiliar with what the caller is talking about, one of our young black men was murdered by a police officer. And on my Facebook page, I said, enough is enough. I have a black son too. And I can tell the caller that no matter what, I will continue to do my job. I will support our sheriff's office. I will make sure that the sheriff's office has money in the budget so they can protect us. Because they don't protect just, as you know, one resident. They protect us all. I was very taken back by the response that I got from the FOP. It was not a phone call directly to me. It wasn't an email directly to me. It was an email abrupt about that their displeasure of me posting enough is enough. I have a black son too. At the end of the day, when I go home, I'm mom. And I'm mom to a black boy. And some people, maybe they don't understand that if you have not to say you don't have the conversation with a daughter, but with a black son, let's just keep it real. We have conversations with our sons. My son is 14 and he's 6'2" already. And there's a conversation that his dad and I have to have. And so with that national crisis that wasn't too long ago, that could happen again tomorrow, I felt as a mom, I cried. And I did place on my Facebook page, enough is enough. And instead of having a conversation with me, they blasted me because they thought it was inappropriate. But at the end of the day, before commissioner, mom comes first. Amanda comes first. And that is the reason why I posted that. And I still stand by my post.
Thank you, Cedric, for calling in.
Thank you. And also, thank you again for pushing that funding through for the light at McDaniel and Smallwood. You guys saving lives out there, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll talk about that later.
Okay, so Amanda, I'm going to try to. We have a lot of questions coming in here. I'm trying to get my questions off of my paper here. Okay. Personally, there are a lot of people that you represent that I would think that moms that feel enough is enough. Mm-hmm. And I can speak to that because I have a mother's circle that deals with moms who have lost their children, some of them to gun violence, some of them to natural causes. And the pain that causes to them is too much there. So I think that sometimes when people want to have a politician, you want somebody that maybe will stand up and say something that's different than what the masses may want to hear. So I commend you on that. It is enough is enough. I can't get with that. I can't get with anyone being upset over saying let's not continue to kill the children in our community or any community. Right. You should be able to express that. Period. So we have some people in here who are asking the question about why should we put up with a commissioner who cannot devote 100% of the time? I'm going to ask a different question. How many commissioners devote 100% of their time to their job?
Well, only one, and that's the commissioner president. So by the structure of the government, there's only one full-time commissioner, and that's the commissioner president. Okay,
so no one else is devoting 100% of the time, I guess, from what Mr. Bryan is saying, maybe from the aspect of because you were working as a teacher, but you're doing a lot of things probably outside of your teacher job as well too, right?
Right. And the other commissioners, other than the commissioner president, the other commissioners, they have jobs and businesses also. So I'm not the only commissioner other than the commissioner president working. So everyone else have a business or a job.
Okay. My transportation question, because you mentioned that transportation was something that you ran as your platform when you first got here. Some people, because I've had different commissioners on here, and I've had some people that called in with questions, and it came up, and they still feel that Charles County has a big transportation problem. Period.
Right.
Not just from the aspect of the traffic and widening the roads, and somebody said widen the roads because the deers don't pay any taxes or something. I don't remember who that was, but as far as light rail,
Yes.
okay. What is your thoughts about that, and has that been something that has been considered by the current commissioner board, and why haven't most of the people in the county feel that they haven't seen any movement or improvement on that? So what has been the hurdles, if any, that has prevented you guys from making good on that promise?
Okay, that's a good question. So we can talk about several transportation or road projects that we have done and that are coming up, but we'll start with the light rail. The light rail issue has been on the books since probably the last 15, 20 years. It's not a new issue. It's not a new study. I remember way before becoming a commissioner, you would get the surveys in the mail and from the Maryland State Department of Transportation, and they would have the county, community meetings. One of the issues is that bringing light rail to the county, you have to do that with the state. You also have to work with our neighboring county, Prince George's County. And so we have things in place that, yes, previous administrations have worked on the project and we're moving it forward. But here's the problem. You can't do the project without the approval of the state. And so we've gone back and forth, even during this administration, meeting with the department, the head of Department of Transportation, Secretary Ron, with Hogan's administration, and they're pushing back. They believe for Charles County, St. Mary's County, what's needed and what would support or fix our issues is more of the buses going up and down the road. Now, we have explained to the current administration in Annapolis that we disagree with that. We believe that we deserve relief with our roads. And so we're pushing forward, setting the agenda, letting them know that every year when we have our meeting around transportation and we send our transportation priority letter, that light rail is important. But they're pushing back. They will not, the state will not put it in the budget. The county has done what we need to do to let them know that this is something we want to do and this is what we need. But at this time, it's very disappointing that the state administration, the governor at the governor's level, they would not continue with the project. Now locally, what we're doing on roads to make sure that, and help our residents to move around. There was one project in particular that sat on the books for many years, several administrations, is Weston Parkway. And so if you're familiar with Weston Parkway, it stopped right before you got to, let's say, Lowe's. Our viewers, if they know where Lowe's is, they know what I'm talking about. And so what we did, we said, enough is enough. We need to finish this project. So Weston Parkway is broken up into 3 phases. Phase 2, if you've been on that road lately, you'll see that it's almost completed. Phase 3, they're doing the design and all of that, and there's a little bit of construction with the clearing out. So that's being done. The caller that called before, that was one of my projects. It was an area, Smallwood Drive and McDaniel Road. I've witnessed accidents occur at that intersection. We needed a light to help to make sure for the safety of our residents. I got that done. Okay. Another thing that we did was on Billington Road and Middletown Road is a roundabout. It was just a project that was sitting on the books for many years. The intersection needed to be completed to make sure that our residents can move around the county safely. Lastly, a huge project that we announced, I don't know if people saw the press release, we've been pushing it out. We did get, with this budget in Annapolis, we got $13 million to change the interchange as you come into Waldorf. That's going to be huge. It's going to help the traffic to flow, and it's going to tie right into Weston Parkway and Mattawoman and Beantown Road to allow the traffic to move on the west and the eastern side of the county.
What's the projected time frame for that to be completed?
I don't remember the year right off the top of my head. I do know it's probably a few years. But the good news is, with this current budget, it was fully funded for the project. And funding is that's the first hurdle that you have to jump over. Well, maybe the second. The first, you got to get people's buy-in, right? The project is needed. The second hurdle was the money, and so the money is there.
Okay, who is Murphy?
Commissioner Murphy is our president.
Okay, so we have a question saying, will you continue to vote with Murphy 100%? They think that you do not have, that you never choose to go against him in anything. And will you continue to vote with him, Murphy, 100% of the time and rule over the commissioners? And they're referring to you and I guess somebody else as a gang of three, negating the other two commissioners. So how y'all? I can't imagine. Is that factual that you would vote 100%? Because I can't imagine anyone agreeing on anything 100% of the time. So do you ever find yourself voting against Murphy? Because I guess they're trying to say that you don't have your own mindset.
Right. One thing, folks that really know me know that I have my own mind. Something that we started with this administration, you can go to the county's website and you can pull up every vote that we've taken, and you'll notice that I haven't voted 100% with anyone. One of the folks that the commissioner president that they're referring to is a long-term politician. And one of the things that people don't realize is, unlike the previous administration where you saw that bickering back and forth, there is no need for that. We know how to handle our business one-on-one, because we have the issue where we can't have more than two commissioners together talking at one on one. You could talk one-on-one. You can't have like three together for Open Meetings Act. But one thing is that I can have a conversation with any of my colleagues, and they already know. And if it's something that they don't have full support on, you'll never see it on the floor.
So I guess that makes your comment that you said there with you guys being able to talk and work things out, or not have to have the bickering back and forth, because it serves no purpose. Counterproductive. Prior to your first term, you just described the tone of Charles County as being embarrassing and gloomy most of the time. You said that the residents had lost faith in the government, resulting from having elected officials who worked with the few more than they worked with the majority. What's your current opinion of the tone of the government, and how have you contributed to changing that tone when your residents look at the government now?
Yes. Day one, that was one of our goals, to make sure the tone was improved, and especially our outside stakeholders, folks from the state and even the federal level. When they looked at the how Charles County government was being ran, we want to make sure that we're not going to embarrass ourselves. I think we've done a really good job with bringing professionalism back to the office, and just understanding that at the end of the day, we work for the people. We work for the people, and it's important to, I believe, I'll give you an example. I believe the majority, and I do work for all residents, and my goal is always to make sure that I'm addressing the majority needs and concerns, because I think at the end of the day, if you are addressing the majority, you can't go wrong. And sometimes, and this is unfortunate, but sometimes the majority is not the group with the loudest voice. Sometimes you sit back and things are going so well, people get quiet. Our sessions, if you look at the data of how many people are tuning in, or if you look at how many people are downloading the videos, it has decreased since the last administration. I don't know if they're saying we're boring or what, but we have a decrease in viewership. But
do you need me to come in?
Maybe we do. Maybe we do. But it's a different office. It's just a different government. And when I'm able to get to Annapolis, or even when talking to some of our federal elected folks, and just the kudos that they give us and the changes that they see, it just, at the end of the day, I know I'm doing something right. We're doing something right. And I could be in the grocery store and someone can recognize me and they'll say, Commissioner Stewart, or just Amanda, let me just tell you, just thank you for everything you're doing in the community.
Okay, so tell me, these questions seem kind of hard, but what is the hardest part of being a commissioner?
Right. I think I was thinking about that. Personally, you know, being a mom, being a woman. I think there's a reason why at the national level, the state level, and the local level, the majority of our elected officials are men. It's difficult or challenging for a woman who's a mom to do this. So that's challenging. Professionally, what's challenging is it's connected. It's two-sided. Number one, making sure that people have the right information, making sure that they're empowered with the correct information. That's challenging. You know, if we have a public hearing meeting and one person show up, or if we have a town hall meeting and one person show up, it's a little discerning. You want to make sure that you're connecting with the public. You want to make sure that they're getting the information out. We have a heavy presence on the web, on the internet, and on social media, just trying different ways to make sure we get information out. So that's very challenging.
Okay, and we are getting down to about 14 minutes, so I'm trying to get into some other things. One question I'd like to know, usually I ask all candidates, what sets you apart from the people who are running against you? What are you bringing to the table? Matter of fact, we had somebody kind of ask the question, what did you bring to the table when you first came into office? Of course, you got more. You have more experience because you've served the term.
Right.
But what did you come to the table with? What made you qualified to get the vote of the Charles County residents?
Well, my first term and even now, one of the things I bring to the table is I'm open-minded and I listen and I care about our community. I listen. That's what's one thing that's important. Something else that's important is that I took on education as a number one priority. You can't really talk to anyone in Charles County and they don't bring up the school system. And me being able to connect, not just as a teacher, but also as a mom, hit home to a lot of people. See, when they call in to the office or they send me an email, they don't have to explain why they're upset. They don't have to explain. I already know. And I connected with a lot of people, and I do believe that's one reason why folks elected me, and I do ask for their support for this re-election. Something else I do have, like you said, I do have the knowledge and the experience. For the first 4 years, I enjoyed legislation. I enjoy the policy making. One of my first bills that I sponsored for Charles County was the food trucks. I felt, and a person came to me, a resident, and she said, "Hey, I want to have a food truck, and I'm being told that I can't do it, and this is my small business. I want to do this in Charles County. I live in Charles County. I should be able to have my food truck in Charles County." That was one of my first legislation resolutions that I sponsored. It passed, and that person is doing business in Charles County with their food truck. It's those things. You connect with people. You understand where people are coming from. And at the end of the day, that's what will get you reelected. And I believe that, and I continue to connect with residents.
Okay, we have another question that came in from Robin Walthour. I hope I said it right. They're asking, could you please ask, when is the county going to fix the digital divide?
Oh, huge. I was talking to another resident this week. I think it was Sunday, actually, and they lived on the western part of the county, and we were talking about how folks, they don't have internet. They can't have internet, or if they call a company, that you need to spend $25,000 to get the lines ran down to your house. I don't know about you, but I don't have that type of money. The average person, they don't have that type of money to spend on internet. We spend that money maybe on school education for college, right? And so what we have to do is we have to work with Verizon to tell them enough is enough, and to make sure that when we're renegotiating our contract with them, that we put things in place where they have to run the lines. Something else that we're looking at is no longer should Verizon or Comcast be the only player in the game. So we're looking at ways to bring in smaller companies that are willing to do the work to reach those areas. It's a huge issue in Charles County.
Robin says that she's in one of those pockets, and she's been promised for years and nothing has came to fruition. Now, I'm really tripping because you're telling me that there are areas in Charles County that Verizon hasn't built out to?
Exactly. The resident that I talked to on Sunday, I said, years ago, before I was born, years ago, remember when they had to, the federal government stepped in and they talked about every area had to have a landline phone, every area needed to have access. I believe that the only way that we're going to get Verizon to change their policies and the way they're doing business is that we're going to need a national mandate that makes them service everyone in the country.
Well,
That's a
Verizon,
problem.
I thought that it was only in Baltimore City and little old grandma up on the mountain in West Virginia. Now, you know my members need work. We're not building out in Charles County.
Yes.
Okay, Lord have mercy. Let me be quiet. You know, I got
Look,
28 years with them.
look.
But I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to move on. Move it on. Move it on.
issue.
Don't get me in trouble. I got 2 more years to retire, okay?
Okay.
She said Robin said she has just been hearing it for years and she is tired of hearing that.
I'm right there with her.
Tell me, so you've talked about your accomplishment with taking the school down to studs. And you talked about getting the food truck built. What other top accomplishments are you proud of?
Okay, I am proud of coming up later this year, October 2018. We'll be opening up our new Waldorf Senior and Recreational Center. That was something else that I ran on. I believe that we needed more services, play services, not just for our seniors, but for our young folks.
We had a question about that earlier that I had went past. The question was regards that project might have took about $2.8 million, and they didn't think that it was necessarily the best project to do. Why not? Okay, let's see. I don't think that the public was for a $3.4 million overpriced building that is going, you believe seniors and the youth will utilize together. Why didn't the commissioners, you and the other 2 commissioners, vote to simply add 10 professional portable basketball courts, resurface the floor, and modernize the Capitol Clubhouse?
Okay, good question. A couple years ago, I met an architect and the director of Rex at the Capitol Clubhouse, and it all came out because my son and my husband went there to play basketball one day, and they had these temporary things to play basketball, something that you would see at your court outside your house.
Okay.
And I went there, I said, hold up, we need to do better than this. Why can't we have professional basketball hoops there? It's used primarily for hockey. On one side it's ice hockey, and the other side it's indoor hockey. I'm not a hockey expert, but I think that's the best way to describe it. And so I had all these ideas of how we could do this. Put in the professional ones like you see in the school that come down, and because of the structure of the building, it wouldn't work. They couldn't do it. Then I said, well, can we build out? So we looked at the deed to see if we had any room to build out. Couldn't do that. Then I said, well, can we build up? If we can't go out, build up. We couldn't do that. And so with that being said, we decided that to increase amenities in the county, we were looking for a place. I think some people are not informed that the senior center was already on the budget with the previous administration.
Okay.
If you go back to the first budget that I sat in, we talk about did I vote 100% with my colleagues. The one thing I remember is that it was a 4-1 vote. I voted against the senior center my first time because I felt that we should not build a building from scratch that was just devoted for seniors when seniors won't use it really on the weekends, they won't use it in the evening time. We needed to build a building that was for all generations. And so just to give one example of, no, that was a 4-1 vote. I lost that one. But it took time, talking to my colleagues, getting their buy-in, and then it was done appropriately. We had excellent staff that made sure that I'm not a realtor, but to go through when they had to get the comps and everything, folks, the county paid a fair value for the property.
Okay, the Capitol Clubhouse, is that the name of it?
Yes.
That has came up before and talks about homelessness in Charles County. If that building cannot be utilized for what you guys created the senior youth combination type of building for, how can that be utilized to help provide a true shelter? Because they're talking about the different tent cities that are in the county.
Well, that building is used for hockey. It's used for ice hockey. Upstairs, there's a gym. There's other activities in the building, so it's not a building that's empty. So
Okay.
I don't know
So
why folks would.
Has
what they were
there
thinking
been
about.
anything that has been on the books for helping with the homelessness issue in Charles County?
Yes, that's something that we have several nonprofit organizations in the county that's really focused on making sure that we can get people off the streets, and then the people that are on the streets to provide them assistance when needed. One of the things that I'm proud of is that I live in a county that understands that it's important to give money back to nonprofit organizations, and a lot of those nonprofit organizations are those organizations that helps the homeless. It's something that we need to wipe off the books. It's something that we're working with our state partners and our national partners to look at how many homeless folks that we have, and especially the veterans that are homeless, to see how can we get them off of the streets.
Okay. Now tell me, what major projects are you looking forward to completing in your next term?
Well, there's several projects, but I'll give you my top two.
Okay.
The top two that I always hear about that is needed, and that's how I set my agenda for budgets. I look at what am I hearing from the public of what's needed, what is requested, and then I go to my colleagues and say, well, for this budget, this is what I want to place in the budget. So number one, the La Plata library needs to be redone. Number two, and this is in no particular order, but we need a new middle school. We have a middle school that is busting at the seams in La Plata because of the new growth in St. Charles, and I'm gonna get that school built. That's my top two.
Your platform originally, when it came to overcrowding the schools, you talked about controlling the new construction in school areas. How did you grade yourself on making that happen?
Pretty good. I don't know if folks know this. One of the things I am proud of is that we were able to negotiate with a new company that came in and bought the St. Charles company to decrease the number of homes that will be going into St. Charles by 6,000. We shared with them our concerns with the overcrowding of the schools. The roads are bad, and one of the things that we did was work with them, and so that's going to be a major impact on St. Charles. 6,000 homes less. Another thing that we focused on to help the overcrowding of the schools is two of my projects that I'm really proud of is Berry Elementary School and Jennifer Elementary School. We're adding classrooms on. We did kindergarten renovations. It's ridiculous that you have a kindergarten class and you have 25, 30 kids in the classroom. That's just uncalled for. And so we're adding additional classroom spaces. We're increasing the capacity of having that age group by having additional classrooms, and then you have additional teachers to bring that class size down to an acceptable level.
Okay. So, as we wrap up, if there's anything that you want to take and say, if you have any fundraising events coming up, or people need to come out, or something, take this moment to tell the people why they need to re-elect you.
Thank you. I would ask for your vote on June 26th to re-elect me. Or early voting is starting on June 14th, the 14th through the 21st. I know that at the end of the day that I have done a job that you can be proud of. I look forward to serving all residents in Charles County to focus on those issues that matters the most. It's very important to me and to a lot of folks. When we leave this world, I want to make sure that I leave a community that is better than when I came in. I want to make sure that your children, my children, grandchildren, and generations later will call Charles County home. Not because they have to, but because they choose to live there. I want to make sure, and I tell folks this and I mean this, I want to make sure that we are able to surpass your expectations what you expect in your county leaders, what you expect in your home. I want to make sure that we surpass that. We need to do better than even what you expect. And that is why I'm running for re-election, because my job is not done. I just listed 2 projects that I want to focus on, just 2 projects, but I have a lot more I want to do. And where do those projects come from? I just listen to the people. The people will say, Amanda, we need A, B, and C, and how can we make it happen? And that's what I do. Something as simple as my first few months, someone said to me about moving a basketball court, redoing a basketball court in a park. I made it happen because it just made the neighborhood better. It just made the residents happy. I'm just not done. So I invite people to go to electamandastewart.com, electamandastewart.com. You can always find more information about my upcoming events, my endorsements. And if you have any questions for me, you can just shoot me a note and I will respond and follow up with you.
All right, and we would not be doing our job if we don't remind you guys, early voting, June 14th through June 21st, and actual day of voting, June 26th. Get out there and vote. Listen to people. Do your own research. Don't listen to other people. Do your own research. I'm going to say it again. Do your own research. And whoever you choose to vote for, make sure it's your decision and not someone else. So, I appreciate you coming into the studio, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I thank all my viewers who turned in. I like all the questions. Amanda, there's several other questions. If you'd like to go to the website and respond to them, you can. And just look for her to respond to them. And I'll see you next Monday when we're coming back with a regular Hanging with Your Girl Tasha. We got the relationship guy back in the seat. Yes. Y'all remember Mr. Derek Jones. He's back in the seat answering your relationship questions. And he has a big surprise for the viewers. So we'll see you next Monday, 5:30 as usual. Hanging with Your Girl Tasha. You know my favorite word is BAM, because I'm always being authentically me.
Lady who walks around without being shady, who knows her values, who's gone through trials. Her smiles are captured from mouth to mouth. It's not the size of her thighs she worries about, but the pride she thrives to keep that drive. That cinnamon twist, that cinnamon twist, that cinnamon twist.